So I want to ask, how was your Christmas? I know, well, Christmas is still ongoing in a sense. So, but how was it? You can share if you want to be on. You can take yourself off mute on Zoom if you want to temporarily. You can. Anything you want to share about your Christmas? Anything that was surprising, good? Good food. All right. Now, David, coming from England, do you have like any English food that you have? That's
Not really.
not really.
We have turkey and lamb.
Turkey and lamb. Oh wow, that sounds good. Good.
Cornish pasties.
What's that, Jeremy?
Cornish pasties.
Cornish pasties. Yeah, you're real English, right? Cornish pasties. No figgy pudding.
No.
Did you demand it? So bring us some figgy pudding and bring it right here. We sang that, and no figgy pudding came, but we didn't stay until we got some. So, yeah, that was. We do some Christmas caroling, and it was nice. My nephew played guitar. He's actually pretty good now. It was a lot of fun. So some of us had great Christmases. Oh yeah, good. The gift of being with family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that was my mother-in-law Myrna saying the big gift of being with family. So yeah, it's wonderful having you in the house and everything, and so it's worth the temporary chaos, right, Anne? Yes. Yeah. So it is wonderful. So some of us had great Christmases, but some of us, I think it was a really hard day. I can't speak for everyone, but some of you are feeling a sense of loss, and Christmas even makes that worse. Different things, traditions, places. Some of us are living in new places, so we've kind of a loss of that. Yesterday we had dinner at my parents' house, and my Uncle Scott was there, and you may know my Aunt Carol passed away, and it's my first time seeing my Uncle Scott since the funeral in September, and it was great having him there, but it just made us very aware Aunt Carol's not here, and there's different things, and we talk a little bit of what's going on, but her absence was part of the presence. And so I think a number of us feel that. We've lost a number of people in the church, around the church, in different ways. And, I think so Christmas is a time of celebration, but also a time of grieving. And I think we need to say, we have Christmas carols and we celebrate, but it's also a good time we need to grieve. It's okay to grieve. And so when we come to church, or even on Zoom church, we don't need to pretend that everything's okay. We don't have to, put on a sweater and play act that we're all jolly and everything is good. Even, and our turkey's never dry, We have to pretend like everything is amazing when it's clearly not. And it's okay to mourn with those who mourn. And that applies to Christmas and every time of year. And so when we come to Scripture and church, many of us can relate to that. And it's interesting, a number of churches now are doing blue Christmas services. Have you ever seen it advertised? There's some different ones. So they have a service to acknowledge that reality of mourning and absence. And when we come to Scripture, that's not all foreign from the Scriptures itself. We're in the Psalms, and as we've been going through the Psalms day by day, starting in November, there's quite a number of laments. Laments that are, it's the subcategory of Psalms where we cry out to God. This is our loss. This is where we need God's intervention. Everything isn't okay. And it's okay to express that to God. It's more than okay. And so some of us have blue Christmases, and so now we're in Psalm 56. That's today's psalm. And so let's have something of a blue Christmas service, yes, with joy, but also acknowledgement of that morning. Ever heard that phrase, blue Christmas? Or maybe, perhaps you've heard the song, Blue Christmas. Any Elvis fans? Okay, we have some Elvis fans. Yeah, I see some hands up there. Yeah, some of you have converted to I see that hand. Elvis. Have you been to Graceland? No. No one's been to Graceland. Anyone on Zoom? Okay. Oh, wow, we do have some. Wow, some of you are full in on the Elvis cult. I didn't bring my costume this morning. We're all grateful for that, right? So anyway, so he has the song Blue Christmas. And so I don't know if they play that song during Blue Christmas services, but yeah, that might be a bit over the top. In Vegas they do, not in Connecticut. But yeah, there's a sense of lament and mourning. And even if you had a wonderful Christmas, even if you got the Millennium Falcon that you wanted for Christmas and everything was perfect yesterday, there will be a letdown. And so these laments in the Psalms work for you as well, even if you're sky high right now this morning. So let's get into it. Psalm 56 is for all of us. So it begins, I'm reading from the New King James. I like that version for the Psalms because it has that sense of literary beauty and poetry. Anyway, so, but from whatever version you're using, it says, to the chief musician, set to the silent dove in distant lands, a Michtam of David, when the Philistines captured him in Gath. That's the title, and it says, be merciful to me, O God, for man would swallow me up. Fighting all day, he oppresses me. My enemies would hound me all day. There are many who fight against me, O Most High. Whenever I am afraid, I will trust in you. So in the psalm, just to get a bigger picture of what's going on in the psalm, David has enemies lurking everywhere. And throughout this poem, we have this imagery of being watched, of being seen. And it's not always positive. And there's three different characters. So you have David in this situation where he's in Gath. His enemies, who are these watchers or lurkers or pursuers, these who are oppressing him or going after him. And then there's God, who's also watching. And so you have David, who's being watched by these enemies, who's also being watched by God. And that's what this psalm is about, being watched, and the difference of the ways of being seen are. And so we see here in the title, there's some musical direction. It says, sing these words to the silent dove in distant lands. Anyone know that song? The same people who knew Blue Christmas? Maybe you go back that far. No one, we don't have the music for that song. A couple thousand years ago. But it's kind of like, put it to this tune. So put these words to this tune that you know. So we sang earlier, a tune to Oh Danny Boy, a popular tune. Perhaps today it wouldn't be Jingle Bells to sing this lament. That would not work, to sing a lament to Jingle Bells. It's a more serious tune. And we also read of David's historical setting, which it says, when the Philistines captured him in Gath. Now, do you know any connection between David and Gath and the Philistines? Anything that come to mind? Goliath, yeah. Where was he from? Gath, his hometown. So Gath was the capital of the Philistines. What's David doing in Gath? Maybe you've been reading through this was after he was watching his sheep. So when he was younger, he was watching sheep. But he was fleeing King Saul at this moment. So he had rose to prominence. He had killed Goliath of Gath, their hometown hero. But then Saul got jealous of David and came after David. So Saul and his people are after David. The Philistines, are they happy with David? No, because they killed their hero. But David fled Saul. He went to the priest of Nob. He got the bread and the presents, and there he got Goliath's sword, because David needed a weapon at the time. And so here he is, David's holding on to Goliath's sword. And where does he flee? Saul's pursuing him. He flees to Gath, holding Goliath's sword, because he's caught between a rock and an even harder place, right? So we read 1 Samuel 21. It gives this background. That day David fled from Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, "Isn't this David, the king of the land? Isn't he the one they sing about in their dances? Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands." So this is David. He's in this town. And David took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, king of Gath. So what it says he did in verse 13 of Samuel 21. So David pretended to be insane in their presence. While he was in their hands, he acted like a madman, making marks on the doors of the gate and letting saliva run down his beard. So this is the setting for this psalm, where David is pretending to be insane. And he might be even slightly a little off too, right? Because when you pretend to be insane, sometimes part of you kind of acts that it goes a little bit further. So that's David's predicament. He's being chased by Saul and his murderous henchmen. And they're coming after David hard. He's also in danger of being killed by the Philistines. He's in their capital. So there's enemy pursuers everywhere. So everyone's watching him. Everyone's pressing in. You know that saying about being paranoid? What's the saying? You're not paranoid if they're really after you. and David, in David's case, I'm not sure about your case, but in David's case, they're really after him. They really are watching him. And so that's the setting of Psalm 56, where it says, verse 2, "My enemies would hound me all day, for there are many who fight against me, O Most High. Whenever I'm afraid, I will trust in you." So that's the setting. So he is afraid. He doesn't know what to do. He's pretending to be insane. But he has this prayer to God. He's lamenting. He's in this rough spot, but he knows who can do something about it. So then verse 4, "In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear. What can flesh do to me?" So David affirms his trust in God. He doesn't know how he's getting out of the situation, but he trusts God has led him thus far. So he makes his plea, and he drives home his case. He says, "See what these people are doing. See how they pursue me. This is not fair. These are mere mortals made of flesh, who are selfish, who are the stuff of meat and beasts." So what can flesh do to me is the literal word. What can man do to me? But he emphasizes the flesh. These are not angels. You see their evil. You see the traps they lay, how deceitful they are. Verse 5, "All day they twist my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. They gather together, they hide, they mark my steps when they lie in wait for my life." So David is saying, God, see what they're doing. Show how your justice works against this beastly pride, against all their designs. Show them the nature of your creation, your reality, the world that you made. They who try to twist reality to their own ends, let's snap back on them and have them fall down. David's asking God to let the reality, his law, his inaction, his the way creation is supposed to work, where the judgment comes to the proud, the arrogant, the deceitful, the violent, the insolent. And so he's pleading to God. It's like, they're not doing this just against me. They're doing this against you. They think that you don't see. They think what they see determines reality. But I know better. I know there is a God who made things, who sustains all things. And so it says, verse 7, shall they escape by iniquity, by sinning more? In other words, in anger, cast down the peoples, O God. So David's asking, it appears they think they can escape their situation by doing more sin, by atoning for sin, but by doing more sin, digging a hole even deeper, and believing they can get themselves out with more violence, more deceit, by more treachery. That's their answer. That's what they believe. And so they believe there are exceptions to the rule. In 1 Samuel, we have this character, Doeg the Edomite, who is Saul's chief henchman, who kind of is always lurking behind David. He's kind of tracking him. We see him come up in Psalm 52 as well. And if there was an award for backstabbing your way to the top in the bureaucracies,